This is a dramatized story inspired by real debt situations. For educational and entertainment purposes only. Not legal or financial advice.
Section 1. Hook, I was $134,000 in student loan debt. And I hid every single statement from my husband for 3 years, every letter that came in the mail. I grabbed it first. Every email notification, I deleted it before he could see the screen. For 3 years, I smiled at the dinner table while a 6-figure number was quietly eating us alive. My name is Karen. I'm 47 years old. I'm a licensed social worker. And this is the story of how a degree I believed in almost destroyed everything I loved. Section 2. Reality. Let me take you back to 2006. I was 29, freshly divorced, raising a 7-year-old daughter named Lily on my own. I had an associate's degree and a cashier job at a grocery store paying $11. $40 an hour. I wanted more for us. I wanted a career that mattered. So I enrolled in a master's program in social work at a private university in Ohio. I won't say the name. It doesn't matter now. What matters is this. I took out $47,000 in federal student loans for that degree. That felt like a lot at the time, but I told myself, social workers are always needed. I'll make it work. And then the economy collapsed in 2008. I graduated into the wreckage. The nonprofit I was hired at froze salaries. I was making $38,000 a year with a master's degree. My loan repayment kicked in. The standard monthly payment was $12 a month. I deferred. Then I deferred again. 5 years of deferment and income-based adjustments later, that $47,000 had grown to $61,000 just from interest. I met David in 2012. He was a high school gym teacher. Steady, kind, good with Lily. We got married in 2014, and I never, not once, sat down and showed him the full number. I told him I had student loans. I told him it was around $60,000. That was true. In 2012, by the time we got married, it was $74,000. By 2017, after 2 more income-driven repayment plans, 2 forbearances during Lily's medical issues, and 1 refinancing decision I deeply regret, it was $134,000. $134,000. And that wasn't even all of it. Because while the loans were quietly compounding, life kept happening. Lily needed braces. $4,200 out of pocket. She had a sports injury in 2016, emergency surgery, and even with insurance, we were left with $8,700 in medical bills. We bought a used Honda CR-V in 2015, $387 a month for 60 months. David's school cut his supplemental coaching stipend in 2018. We lost $4,800 a year overnight, and we had put $11,000 on 2 credit cards over 4 years. Groceries, car repairs, 1 small family vacation we couldn't afford but took anyway because I was exhausted from pretending everything was fine. So here's where we actually stood in early 2019. Federal student loans, $134,000 credit card debt, 2 cards, $11,400 medical bills, still unpaid, $3,200 car payment remaining, $8,100 personal loan I took out in 2018 to cover a tax shortfall, $6,500 IRS balance from a freelance counseling gig I didn't properly track. $2,900 total, $160,100. Our combined household income was $89,000 a year. Before taxes. Section 3. Emotional crisis. I remember the exact night it started to fall apart. It was a Tuesday in March 2019. Lily was 20 now, in her 2nd year of community college. David was asleep by 10, and I was sitting at the kitchen table with my laptop open, staring at a notice from the Department of Education. My income-driven repayment plan was being recalculated. My new monthly payment was going to be $743. $743 a month, just for the student loans. I sat there for 2 hours doing math in my head. Our mortgage was $1,180. The car was $387. We were already paying minimums on the credit cards, $190 combined. The personal loan was $140 a month. The IRS was sending notices. David's paycheck hit on the 15th and mine on the 1st, and every single month we were about $400 short before we even bought groceries. I closed the laptop. I went to bed. I stared at the ceiling until 3 a.m. The collection call started in April. Not for the student loans. Those were federal. They don't call like that. But the medical bill from Lily's surgery had been sold to a collection agency. I didn't know that until a blocked number called my work phone at 9:15 in the morning, and a recorded voice told me I owed $3,200 and to call a number immediately to avoid further action. I stepped outside the office and stood in the parking lot shaking. They called 3 more times that week, twice on my cell, once on a Saturday morning when David was sitting right across from me at the breakfast table. I let it go to voicemail and pretended it was a spam call. "You've been getting a lot of those lately," David said, not looking up from the paper. "Yeah," I said. "I think my number got sold somewhere." I poured him more coffee and went to the bathroom and sat on the edge of the tub and pressed my hands against my knees to stop them from shaking. The shame is hard to describe to someone who hasn't felt it. It's not just embarrassment, it's this low, constant hum of terror, like you're always standing at the edge of something waiting to fall. You can't enjoy a good dinner because you're calculating whether you can cover the electric bill. You can't watch your husband sleep peacefully without feeling like a fraud. You can't answer the phone in your own house. I started having panic attacks in May. Heart racing, tunnel vision, that awful feeling that you can't get enough air. I thought it was a heart condition. I didn't go to the doctor because I couldn't afford another medical bill. I lost 11 pounds between March and June. David thought I was dieting. I wasn't. I just couldn't eat. Lily came home for a weekend in June and looked at me over dinner and said, "Mom, are you okay? You look tired." I told her I was fine. I wasn't fine. Section 4. Wrong choices. Here's the part I'm not proud of. In April, when I realized I couldn't make the new student loan payment and the credit card minimums and the IRS, I did something stupid. I found a payday loan place online. I borrowed $1,500 to cover the gap. The fee? $270 for 2 weeks. That's an annual percentage rate of around 400%. I knew that going in. I told myself it was temporary. It wasn't temporary. I rolled it over twice. By the time I paid it off, I had paid $810 in fees on a $1,500 loan. Then I did the balance transfer trick. I moved $6,000 from one credit card to a new card with a 0% introductory APR, 12 months, 0 interest. Great, right? Except I didn't change the spending behavior. By month 8, I'd put another $3,800 on the old card, and the transfer fee had been 3%, $180, that I'd rolled right into the balance. My credit score, which had been around 661, dropped to 588 after all of that. I checked it once and closed the browser and didn't look again for 4 months. Your FICO score affects everything. Mortgage refinancing, car loans, sometimes even job applications. I knew that. I looked away anyway. In July, I did the thing I swore I'd never do. I raided my 403B. We had about $41,000 in retirement savings between us, my workplace plan, and David's teacher pension contributions. I withdrew $9,000 from my account. The IRS hit me with a 10% early withdrawal penalty, and it counted as taxable income. I owed taxes on it the following April, on money I had already spent. I was hiding the mail by then, not just the loan statements, the IRS letters, the credit card bills. I had started a separate email address just for financial accounts. I told myself I was protecting David from stress. I was actually protecting myself from having to say out loud what I'd done. In August, he found a letter. He was looking for a phone charger in my nightstand drawer, and he found a Department of Education notice, the one recalculating my payment to $743 a month. He came downstairs with it. He set it on the kitchen table in front of me. He didn't yell. David doesn't yell. He sat down, and he looked at me and he said, "Karen, what is this? And what else is there?" And I told him everything. The $134,000, the payday loans, the 403B withdrawal, the collection agency, the IRS balance, the credit cards, all of it. He sat there for a very long time. Then he said, "I need to go for a walk." He was gone for 2 hours. I didn't know if he was coming back. Section 5. Turning Point. He came back. He walked in the door, sat back down, and said, "We need to talk to someone who actually knows what they're doing. Not each other. A professional." A coworker of mine had mentioned a nonprofit credit counseling agency the previous year, one that was accredited and didn't charge upfront fees. I'd written the name down and never called. I dug the number out of my phone notes the next morning. The counselor I spoke to was a woman named Michelle. She didn't gasp when I told her the numbers. She didn't make me feel small. She said, "Okay, let's look at the full picture before we talk about options." We spent 90 minutes on the phone. She asked about every debt, every interest rate, every monthly payment, our income, our assets, and then she laid it out clearly. She said there were several paths, and none of them were magic, and all of them had trade-offs. She said some people in my situation look into debt consolidation, rolling multiple debts into one lower interest loan, simplifying the monthly payments. The catch: it requires decent credit, and mine had slipped, and it doesn't touch federal student loans the same way. She mentioned debt settlement, where a negotiator contacts creditors and tries to settle balances for less than what's owed. But she was honest. Debt settlement can wreck your credit score further. The forgiven amount may be taxable as income, and not every creditor will negotiate. She said, "I'd be doing you a disservice if I made it sound easy." She brought up Chapter 7 Bankruptcy, which can discharge certain unsecured debts like credit cards, but federal student loans are famously difficult to discharge in bankruptcy. There's a legal standard called undue hardship that's hard to prove. She strongly recommended I speak with a licensed bankruptcy attorney if we went that route, someone who could assess my specific situation. She said, "Don't try to navigate bankruptcy law on your own." She also mentioned Chapter 13 Bankruptcy, a repayment plan structured over 3 to 5 years that lets you catch up on secured debts while the court protects you. Different from Chapter 7. Both affect your credit score significantly and stay on your credit report for years, but for some people, that fresh structure is what makes survival possible. For the student loans specifically, she walked me through income-driven repayment options, particularly the fact that I may have been eligible for public service loan forgiveness since I'd been working in a nonprofit social services role for over 10 years. She couldn't guarantee anything. She said, "You need to contact your loan servicer and possibly a student loan attorney, because the paperwork and qualifications are specific and the rules have changed." She also said, "Consult a licensed professional before making any decisions." She said it twice. I wrote it down. I left that call feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time. Not fixed, not saved, just like there was a direction. Like the fog had edges. Section 6. Educational info. I want to pause here for a second, because when I was in that hole, I didn't understand the difference between half of these terms. They all sounded the same. They're not. Debt consolidation is combining multiple debts into one, ideally at a lower interest rate. It can make sense for credit card debt if your credit score qualifies you. It does not automatically apply to federal student loans. Credit counseling, through a nonprofit, accredited agency, is where a trained counselor reviews your full debt picture and helps you create a plan. Some agencies offer debt management plans where they negotiate reduced interest rates with creditors on your behalf. There are usually small monthly fees. Debt settlement is negotiating to pay less than you owe. It can hurt your FICO score, the forgiven debt may be taxable, and results vary. Be very cautious of for-profit debt settlement companies that charge large fees up front. Chapter 7. Bankruptcy can eliminate unsecured debts quickly. Credit cards, medical bills, personal loans. It stays on your credit report for 10 years. It is very difficult to discharge student loans through Chapter 7 without proving specific hardship criteria. Chapter 13. Bankruptcy is a structured repayment plan, 3 to 5 years, that lets you keep assets while repaying debts under court supervision. It stays on your report for 7 years. On student loans, specifically, if you work in public service, government, or qualifying nonprofits, public service loan forgiveness may apply after 10 years of qualifying payments. Income-driven repayment plans can cap your monthly payment based on income. These are federal programs with specific rules. A student loan attorney or a HUD-approved housing and debt counselor can help you navigate them. And on the IRS balance, the IRS does have programs, installment agreements, currently not collectible status, offer in compromise. These require documentation and qualification. A tax professional or enrolled agent can help. None of this is legal advice. I am not a financial professional. Consult a licensed professional before making any decisions about your debt situation. Section 7. Resolution. David and I are still together. I want to say that first. It took months to rebuild the trust. Not because he stopped loving me, but because I had made him a stranger in his own financial life. We went to couples counseling for a while. That helped. Here's where things actually stand. 18 months after that night, he found the letter. I submitted my public service loan forgiveness employment certification, going back through 10 years of qualifying employment. We're still waiting on that process. It's slow, it's frustrating, but it's real, and it's possible. The IRS balance is on a payment plan, $115 a month, manageable. The medical debt was settled. The collection agency accepted 60 cents on the dollar. My credit score took a hit, but the balance is gone. The credit cards are on a debt management plan through the nonprofit agency. 1 monthly payment, reduced interest rates, structured payoff over 4 years. I'm not debt-free. I'm not even close to debt-free. But I know exactly what I owe. I know exactly what the plan is. And I sleep. That's not nothing. After 3 years of 3 a.m. ceiling staring, sleeping is everything. If you're hiding something right now, from your spouse, from yourself, I'm not going to tell you it's easy to come clean. It's not. But the weight of carrying it alone is heavier than whatever conversation you're afraid of. I promise you that. You don't need to have all the answers to take the first step. You just need to call someone who does. Find a nonprofit credit counseling agency. Search for a bankruptcy attorney who offers free consultations. Many do. Look into your student loan servicer's income-driven repayment options. Ask about public service loan forgiveness if you work in a qualifying field. The debt will still be there tomorrow. But so will you. And that's the only thing that actually matters. Section 8. CTA, get the free debt checklist in the description. Link below.